Hi, and welcome to my channel. I'm Lauren, this is Zoe, and Ziggy decided to stay upstairs and rest. For today's class, I will be sharing Thomas Hanna's somatic exercises for controlling the muscles of the hips and of the legs, and the importance of voluntarily contracting and relaxing the muscles of the center of the body before we get to moving the hips and the pelvis. Because if the center of the body is stuck, then it makes it a lot harder to create that natural locomotion we're looking for when we're walking and moving through our daily lives. Because as we get older, we tend to see our bodies getting stiffer, less mobile, and more rigid. And so hopefully from today's class, you'll be able to feel more fluid and free, the hips, the pelvis, and the legs. For today's class, you don't need any special props, just floor space. You know, I like to practice on the rug and on my yoga mat, but you are more than welcome. If you don't have a mat, you can just lie on the floor. Solid surface is preferred. I know I've gotten a couple questions about whether you can practice in the bed, and that is optional if that is what is accessible to you. But if you're able to get your body down on the ground, then that is preferred because the floor is gonna be more firm and give you better feedback of how your body moves in space. And before we get started, hit that subscribe and notification bell so you can stay up to date on new content that I'll be releasing. And without further ado, let's get started. This entire class is done lying down on your back. So make your way on your back like I am. Your left leg will go long and straight. Your right leg will be bent, rotating that right hip out. And you don't need to bend that knee really tight in and go into full deep external rotation, just a little bit, all right? Arms relaxed by your side here. Go ahead and close your eyes and just notice how your body is resting right now. If you like, if it helps, you can take your hands to the hips and the pelvis. And perhaps you notice that since that right leg is rotating out, your hips are slightly, or your pelvis is slightly turned towards the right. Take a deep breath in and big sigh out. Again, inhale and exhale. So from here, we're going to create that gentle movement that is very characteristic of somatic exercises. So with that right leg, you're going to turn the bottom of your foot towards the sky. Think right knee down, right foot up. Notice as you do that, your left hip will kind of peel off the floor, and that will make it easier to rotate that right leg out. And then you're going to come back to where you were. You're going to do that 10 times total. And at first it might feel a little awkward, but let it be very natural, very rhythmic. For me, that was 3. Notice and sense in your body what you're doing as you're doing it. One more for me, maybe for you. All right, and then plant your right foot to the floor. So you may have noticed through that exercise, as you're rotating that right hip up, it's a natural movement to peel that left hip up and to twist the pelvis towards the right. So now we're going to rotate that right leg internally. So keeping the arms relaxed, you're going to drop your right knee inward. Okay, notice how your right hip will lift up this time, and it may feel natural for your head to turn to the right. You're going to lift your right foot up, think knee down, foot up, and then come back to where you were. And keep going 10 times. You may feel that movement all the way up to your head and neck, that locomotion of rotation in the spine and the rotation in the hips and pelvis. I think that was 4. Try to go for 10. Two more. And then lengthen your legs out for a moment and notice how your legs are resting on the ground. You may notice that right side is maybe a little bit lower. Right leg feels lower and longer. You might even sense a difference in the lower back. Take a deep breath in and out. So now we're going to put those two movements together on that same side. So plant the right foot to the floor. In between each one, we're going to lengthen the leg out. So first, drop your right leg outward and let your right foot come up, knee drop down. And again, notice how your left hip lifts up to make that easier. And then lengthen your leg, come back to center. Then you're going to turn your right leg inward, foot upward. And notice how the hips and pelvis will turn towards your left. And you're going to do that 10 times total. If you're feeling any pain, back off, slow it down, because these movements are meant to be gentle and slow in essence. We don't really want to encourage any pain. I think that was 3. All right, I think that was 10. Let me just complete that internal hip rotation and then relax and notice how your right leg and right hip is resting on the ground in relation to the left. You may even notice a difference in the shoulders. I know I do, right versus left, because we were focused on keeping that right shoulder down as we were rotating the hips to the left. As you're here, taking in this full picture of your body, you may have noticed that connection of what we did in the previous class, the somatic exercises for rotation of the trunk, and how that relates to this class. So now we're going to do the same thing on the left-hand side. So keeping that right leg long, rotate that left leg externally. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, try to lift your left foot up, knee down, and you may find it helpful to lift that right hip up and turn the pelvis towards the left. And then relax, and you're going to do that 10 times total. That was 7 for me. And that was 10. All right. Go ahead and plant your left foot to the floor and notice how your hips and pelvis are resting now. All right. So now we're going to focus on internal rotation of that left hip. So you're going to turn your hips towards that right. Think knee down, foot up, and then come back to where you were. And do that 10 times total. And again, it may feel natural as you do this for your head to turn to the left as you internally rotate your left hip. And you may notice a difference as well in the range of motion on one side versus the other. There's a lot of factors that can affect that range of motion, like the structure of our hips and the mobility and control of our hips in those directions. Kind of lost count here. I want to say, guesstimate that was maybe 8. I'm going to do one more. All right, let's say that's 10. Go ahead and lengthen your legs out and notice how your body is resting on the ground. Okay, so let's put those two movements together on that left side. And again, in between those rotations, we're going to lengthen the leg out and then go in the other direction. So let's start with external hip rotation. So let your left leg turn outward. All right, take a deep breath in. As you exhale, you're going to turn towards your left, lifting your left foot up, knee down, external hip rotation. Then return to your back, left leg long, and then go into internal hip rotation. Turn your hips towards the right and lift your left foot up. And you're going to do that 10 times. I want to say that was 5. Let's say that's 7. 2 more. Last one. And keep in mind, we don't want to experience pain, but you'll probably feel like I'm feeling that my hips are working. Now pause for a moment and notice how your hips are resting on the ground. Not just the hips, but also the thighs and your lower back. You may notice everything is starting to drop lower and lower, become less rigid on the floor. Take a deep breath in and big sigh out. So let's put that together, rotating both legs in both directions at the same time. So you're going to take the soles of the feet together, all right, knees out wide, and then you're going to lengthen your legs and then plant your feet wide and knock your knees in, okay? And keep doing that. We're going for 10 total. And you may notice when you bring the soles of the feet together, knees wide, your pelvis will tilt forward a bit. Your back will arch naturally because those hips are rotating out. And then when you lengthen when you rotate the legs inward, you may notice your pelvis tilts backwards, your lower back relaxes towards the floor. I want to say that was 3. It's kind of hard to count when I'm talking, but let's just guess that was 3. I got 2 more. And 1 more. And then go ahead and relax and lengthen your legs on the floor. Good. Notice how your body is resting now. Finally, we're going to rotate our hips into opposite directions of one another. So plant the feet close together, okay, knees to the sky. Take a deep inhale. Exhale, drop your knees to the right, trying to keep your hips your knees towards one another as best you can. And notice how your right leg's rotated out, your left leg is rotated in. Then you'll come back to center, inhale. Exhale, drop your knees in the other direction. And keep going. And notice how with your body resting here on the floor, how as you rotate your knees in one direction or your hips in one direction, the spine is also rotating, and that will create a natural tug on the opposing shoulder. All the way up to the head and neck. Let's say that's 4. We're going to go for 10 here. Two more. And then come back to center and lengthen your legs out on the floor. And finally, taking in that full picture, perhaps you notice the hips feel much more supple, more relaxed. The thighs feel lower, the pelvis feels lower, and the back feels lower. And as I mentioned before, I personally find this particular exercise routine for the hips and legs to be a bit more strenuous than the other ones. And you may feel your hips a little bit tired, your back a little bit tired, but we don't want to be feeling pain. That's the key. So if you are First, perhaps you slow it down. Maybe you decrease your range of motion. Maybe you focus on closing your eyes, drawing your attention inward. Less focus on speedy, aesthetic results. Take one more breath in. Big sigh out. As you feel ready, hug your knees to your chest, roll to one side, and gently press up. Hopefully from today's class, you got a deeper understanding of how somatic exercise classes work, how you can integrate them into your yoga asana practice, perhaps as a warm-up, or to calm the nervous system, or just to move from more of an embodied place and to understand where you're holding on to tonicity in your muscles to create more ease and balance in how you move, feel, and breathe. So with that said, enjoy the rest of your day. I hope this practice helps you to move more fluidly through your day, and I'll see you next time.